wondering what's the best business model for your fashion business, you're in the right place. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Fashion Guru podcast show. I'm your host, Alea Alvarez, and today we're breaking down a question that can literally save years of trial and error in your business. What kind of fashion business do you actually want to run? You see, a lot of people jump into the fashion industry without ever stopping to ask themselves, do I want to run an e-commerce store? Do I want to run a brick and mortar store? Do I want to do wholesale to other retailers, or do I want to drop ship? And the truth is, each of these business models are very, very different. And they don't just change how you sell your products. They actually change how you live your day-to-day life as a business owner, the investment and cost, your stress level, your freedom, and even the hours and how much you're having to have to work. So it's very, very crucial that every new fashion business entrepreneur chooses the right business model that's catered to their type of lifestyle, because it can actually make or break you, and you can become burnt out before you have even made a profit. So if you're in that stage of figuring things out, or maybe you're already started and you're realizing your current path or business model that you chose is just not fitting your lifestyle, your schedule, your interests, this episode is for you. And we're going to be breaking down each business model, the advantages and the disadvantages, and the overall challenges that are most importantly, and who each one is really catered to. If you made it this far, make sure you go ahead and give that video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. So let's start here. Why does choosing a business model even matter? And isn't fashion just fashion? Well, no, because here's the thing. The type of business you choose will completely determine how you experience entrepreneurship. For example, opening a brick and mortar boutique, your day-to-day might look waking up, going to shop. For example, opening a brick and mortar boutique, your day-to-day might look like waking up, going to the shop, setting up displays, greeting customers face-to-face, and staying open until 7 to 10 p.m. at night. So you'll be rooted in your local community, which can be rewarding and exciting, but you'll also be tied to that location pretty much every single day. It's still almost like working a 9 to 5. You can't just pack a bag and work from the beach, sis. On the other hand, if you run an e-commerce store, so you got a little bit more freedom, check your Shopify notifications from your laptop, schedule some Instagram posts, answer some emails. The model maybe pack a few orders doesn't just shape your business, it shapes your lifestyle. And if you choose the wrong model for your goals or your personality, you'll wind up feeling frustrated and very burnt out. So let's take e-commerce for example, which is the most popular business model today. The advantages of e-commerce, honestly, first off, it's very, very, very cheaper to start compared to a physical brick and mortar store. You don't have to pay rent or retail space, and you don't need staff right away. Your overhead is way lower. So that makes it more accessible for most new entrepreneurs. That's why e-commerce is so saturated today. Everyone has an e-commerce store, okay? And because it's more convenient, it's always going to be saturated when something is more convenient, more accessible, and has lower overhead costs. That's just common sense. It also gives you the flexibility to run your business literally anywhere and from your home, from a coffee shop, while you're traveling, at the beach. As long as you got Wi-Fi, you're in business. And of course, with e-commerce, you're not limited to just your city or town. You can sell globally if you market correctly. You could be shipping an order to New York in the morning and another one to London at night. But here's the reality check. E-commerce is very, very crowded. And you're not the only one with an online store trying to sell something through e-commerce. So the challenge is standing out, which means I need to learn new things like social media marketing, paid ads, SEO, email funnels. Basically, digital marketing becomes your lifeline. You might actually need to invest in a professional digital marketing course. Another downside is the lack of physical interaction. Customers cannot touch or try on your products, which means trust takes longer building and more work versus a brick and mortar store. You'll have to invest in photography and have strong branding and have clear product descriptions to make up for the fact that they can't really see and interact with your product. They can't feel the materials. They don't know if they're really getting what they're paying for. So who is e-commerce best for? E-commerce is best for entrepreneurs who value freedom, who want the ability to reach people all over the country and are willing to roll up their sleeves to learn marketing. If you are running an e-commerce store today or thinking about running an e-commerce store, marketing is the very first thing that you need to be considering. Do I know how to market? How much time am I going to need to spend on creating content and reels and videos? How much photography am I going to need to invest in? Am I going to be able to invest in branding shoots? Do I have the time to do all of these things? You have to think about the nitty-gritty before even starting your business model. And I think a lot of boutique owners, fashion brand owners, and really just people in general who run online businesses don't even think about that e-commerce is straight up marketing. If you don't know how to market and network, you're afraid of being in the camera, you're afraid of being on your phone, taking some pictures, taking some videos, putting yourself out there, I wouldn't recommend e-commerce business model for you because it's something that requires you to be a little bit more hands-on with, and you do need to be a little bit tech savvy with because you're creating reels, you're editing reels, you're creating YouTube videos, you're editing YouTube videos, you're having photography sessions, and you might need to edit your own content before you can actually afford to have people editing your photos. So there's a lot of hands-on with an e-commerce business, especially with your website, with your social media platforms. If you're shipping your own orders, you're in charge of all the shipping and the packaging. You're just in charge of everything as an e-commerce business owner. So you have to think about all of those responsibilities and day-to-day tasks and make sure that that aligns with your lifestyle and what you already got going on. Moving on to brick and mortar boutiques. Now let's talk about brick and mortar. So this is the traditional model, opening up your own physical store, right? And I'm not against it. The advantages is obviously you immediately build trust and credibility with customers who walk in or pass your store or come in to feel your fabrics, try on and connect with you face to face, right? They see who you are. They see that your store is legitimate. They can actually see what you have to offer. They can feel the product. They can see the product. They can see if they like it. They can look at the price. They know what they're getting or what they're paying for, right? So it's very easier to build loyalty and credibility, which is great. There's nothing like being a stable store in your community or your hometown and being known for the store that offers such and such. So that's great. But on the flip side, brick and mortar is extremely expensive. You have a lot of monthly cost every single day, and your overhead is due before you have even made a sale. Some of those costs are like your rent, your utilities, your insurance, employees. All of that stuff adds up. And that's not even including your boutique rats and obviously making sure that you're restocking your inventory. You're easily looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in overhead expenses every single month before you have even made a profit. And so if you are tied to that location, you can't just decide to close early if you're tired. Customers expect consistent hours. You need reliable employees that are going to show up for work, and they still got to get paid even if sales are slow. So when you're opening up or considering a brick and mortar store, you have to be able and willing to take on the risk of some days or some months I might not break even. I might be spending more in costs than I am profiting. I might not be always making a return on investment. I might need to actually come in and do some things, even though I don't want to work a 9-to-5 job. I might need to actually physically come to the store to get some things done. It's just like working a 9-to-5 job, because if you're in a mall, you're there from whatever time the mall opens, 9:45, 10:45 till 9, 10 o'clock at night. That's still an 8 to 10 hour shift. So you have to think about that. Do I want to be on my feet all day? Do I want to be telling people what to do all day? Do I want to be talking to customers face to face all day? Do I want to incur all these monthly costs every month before I have even made a dime in sales? Because depending on where you live, sis, it can be very expensive, especially like Dallas, Fort Worth, or Atlanta, or New York, or California. You're easily probably going to be paying at least $4,000 to $7,000 a month. And that's just being very generous before you have even made a profit. So if I know that my rent is already $5,000, that means I need to be making at least 3 to 4 times that for it to even make sense. You need to be bringing in $10,000 or $15,000 a month if you're paying $5,000 to $7,000 a month just on rent. And then that's not even including the cost of the utilities, and then the employees, and then everything else that you have to manage. So you really need to make sure you sit down and budget and look at those financial projections and all those expenses and costs to make sure that this is something that you can actually really afford to do. It's a great opportunity for the right person with the right resources, time, money, and energy. So that's what I have to say about brick and mortar. And I'm not against it, but it is a more expensive option. So now let's talk about wholesale. So this is something that I don't really hear many people talking about online. Wholesaling is a business model for beginners, for people who actually don't want to sell directly to consumers, but sell inventory from suppliers in bulk to retailers and for them to resell, right? So basically, wholesalers are the people that I buy my inventory from whenever I'm shopping for my inventory. They depend on me to buy from them so that they can make business and make a return on investment, right? That's how the business model works for resale. But the downside is the margin. So if you're selling at a lower price per item, then you would direct to consumer, because the store needs to mark it up and make the profit. So that means you have to make it up for in volume. So for instance, like a jumpsuit, my jumpsuits from a wholesaler, for instance, are $35 each, and I get a pack of 6, right? So I'm spending about maybe $160 plus shipping for a pack of 6 jumpsuits. Well, those jumpsuits retail for probably about $129, but I'm buying it from them $35 each, right? So that's a lower price for them. So they make up their money from volume. They probably need multiple orders of people buying it to make up for the amount that they spent in bulk order buying from the supplier or the manufacturer or whatever. So wholesaling requires really good manufacturing or supplier relationships. You need to produce your items at a quality level and price point that makes sense for resale. And you do lose a bit of control over your brand. You're trusting other people to display and sell your products the way you'd want them to. So who is wholesale best for? Wholesale is best for founders who love designing or producing and want to operate more behind the scenes. If you're less interested in building a community around your boutique and you're more interested in scaling a product line, wholesale might be your path. And I really consider wholesaling to be a way, like they said, behind the scenes. Basically, you're not a people person. You're pretty much just selling the inventory to retailers, and it's up to them how they do it. You're not really doing much of any type of face-to-face people selling besides just selling the wholesale. You know, you're not having to really market yourself. For instance, wholesalers are at trade shows and things like that, but it's not as near as much work as it is being an e-commerce owner. And then lastly, the last business model that I'm going to get into is obviously drop shipping. Now, drop shipping is a very popular business model that has been talked about pretty much the last 3 to 5 years. But with drop shipping, you don't actually hold inventory. You set up an online store, and when a customer buys, the supplier ships the product directly to them, right? So you're not having to worry about shipping or packaging or anything like that, right? Very convenient. The advantages of this is it's the lowest cost way to start any type of online e-commerce business. You don't need inventory. You don't need storage space. You don't even have to worry about packing or shipping. So anyone can test it out without any huge risk. And a lot of people love to test things without spending a lot of money up front. But the advantages, obviously, with this business model is that profit margins are slim. Since you're basically the middleman, you make less per sale. Shipping times can be long, especially if suppliers are overseas, and that can also obviously frustrate your customers. Nobody wants to be waiting a week to 2 weeks to receive an order. And since you don't control the product or the fulfillment, it's really harder to build loyalty with your customers. So who is drop shipping for? Drop shipping is for beginners who want to test out whether fashion is even the right industry before even investing thousands of dollars into inventory. It's a great way to learn how e-commerce works, practice marketing and experimenting with niches, but long term, most people eventually transition into holding inventory and manufacturing. Another thing that I want to say about drop shipping is I honestly do not recommend anyone who is starting a boutique or a high value apparel line to be considering drop shipping, because with drop shipping, obviously you have no control over your consistency or branding with your packaging. With drop shipping, it's very hard trying to find suppliers that will be willing to allow you to put your logo on the products, send hang tags, send labels, put your branding colors on there, send them your branding packaging. You have no control over the visibility of how your product looks before the customer receives it. If you're selling something of quality, you don't want it to just be thrown in some dirty poly mailer. You want a luxury box. So if you really care about your customer's experience and the packaging and the messaging behind your brand and what they're paying for it, you would probably not go the drop shipping model. That's just honestly, I'm not even going to say that's an opinion. That's just a fact. You really want your packaging to match your business model and obviously match what it is that you're offering. All of that needs to be aligned and packaged very well. We're getting into our first commercial break. So today's sponsorship is obviously sponsored by the one and only the Fashion Guru Academy. We would like to take the time to let you guys know that we are accepting pre-enrollments for the Grow and Scale Boutique Accelerator course inside of the Fashion Guru Academy. Now, this isn't just a course, it's a full transformation program that takes you from A to Z as a new boutique or fashion brand owner. We cover everything from building your foundation, finding your niche, branding, marketing, inventory management, and scaling strategies. All of that is covered. So if you're ready to stop piecing things together and wasting money on inventory that doesn't sell, or trying to increase your visibility and growth and email list, this is the course that you need to enroll in. The links will be down in the description box, and it's the Grow and Scale Boutique Accelerator course that takes you from A to Z for a full transformation for a new boutique owner. All right, now back to the episode. So how do you choose the best business model for you? So now that we've broken down e-commerce, brick and mortar, wholesale, and drop shipping, how do you actually decide which one's right for you and your lifestyle? Well, you need to figure that out for yourself. No one can figure that out for yourself. You need to write down, what is my budget, first of all? Am I ready for high overhead expenses? Or do I need to start lean? What kind of lifestyle do I want? Do I want flexibility, or do I want to be in a store every day? What does my schedule permit? What are my long-term goals? Do I want global reach, local presence, or to be a product line that's sold in stores everywhere? You need to really think hard about these questions and decisions before investing or doing anything, because that's one thing why a lot of boutique owners and fashion brand owners fail, is because they get in over their head and they don't even know what they're getting themselves into. A lot of them already have kids, or they're married, and their life just does not permit for them to be running a business. And you have to think about these things. You want a branded fashion brand? Well, you're going to need to be ready and available to be more hands-on with your brand, so that you can make sure that it is branded and the messaging relates with your audience. So that's what I have to say about that. Final thoughts today is choosing the right business model isn't just what's trending, it's about what's sustainable for you. E-commerce, brick mortar, wholesale, drop shipping, they all can work, but the one that will actually succeed for you is the one that matches your goals, your lifestyle, and of course, your budget. So if you love today's episode, if you found it to be very helpful and valuable and gave you insight on starting a fashion business, then be sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and also let us know in the comments which business model you're probably thinking about choosing. We would love to know. And before you go, make sure you check out your Find Your Target Audience quiz. It's a free, quick quiz that will help you determine if you're marketing to the correct target audience. Also, be sure to grab the 10-step fashion business starter guide, which is another freebie that walks you through the exact foundation every fashion founder needs to get started and to go from idea to launch. And if you're ready for that full transformation, then I would highly suggest for you to join the Fashion Guru Academy today and enroll in the Grow and Scale Boutique Accelerator course inside of the Fashion Guru, which will take you from A to Z and give you that full transformation as a boutique owner to launching and growing and scaling your fashion brand. Again, I appreciate all those who are watching and listening from both our Spotify podcast, and if you're tuned in on YouTube, obviously you'll see a little bit of visuals on the screen. We appreciate both listeners from both platforms. Again, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, because it really does show YouTube that this type of content and value is appreciated from the YouTube community and for future fashionpreneurs like yourself. And also hit the subscribe button. We post videos every single day at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. My name is Alea Alvarez, CEO of the Fashion Guru Academy and Le Madame Apparel, and this is the Fashion Guru Podcast Show. We'll see you in the next one.